Jamaica, the PNP has now come with their holiest trick in the book, which is to spread propaganda. Just like what Alfred Dawes did back then with the $31 million drill, and he gave the impression that just one drill cost $31 million, which he did not outline that even the drill console was even dearer than the actual drill, and also the drill has 152 pieces. Okay, we not mind that still. But the thing is, they're trying to criticize the $1.4 billion spent on the school buses to transport our kids safely to and from school. And the sad thing is, Jamaica, these SOBs want to give their TikTok bloggers our tax money of $1 billion. So tell me how that makes sense. So you want to give $1 billion to the TikTokers, and the government can't spend $1.4 billion on our kids' safety? Jamaica, in a really see what go on. What has the PNP become? Me done. Share this video.
And it will indeed be bus after bus after bus after bus. We are going to take the 10:30, getting quickly into this segment as we're pressed for time. Good morning, Colin Bell.
Morning, Marvin. Morning. How you doing?
Greetings, my brother. I'm good, and I trust you are well.
Well, I am eating some dasheen. Boy, I was one of the best dasheen I've ever had.
Very
one of the best dasheen for a long time.
What kind of salt do you have it with? Ackee and saltfish, or just cook up saltfish?
No, some steam pop chai with saltfish.
Very well, very well. Well, equally good. So
coconut oil. Real coconut oil.
Yeah, man. So I can just imagine the aroma coming out of that.
Sure, man.
All right, that is good, my brother.
Pepper.
Respect. All right, so my listeners may appreciate my style. I don't seek to suppress commentary and the perspectives of, my Jamaican brothers and sisters. I invited you this morning, Colin, first to have a little reasoning. A little you said something in 2 minutes, me have my 2 minutes and so on. And we'll alternate like that. But just to establish the context for the benefit of my listeners, what we have in sharp focus right now, listeners, is the issue of a school transportation system. The JP is proposing a school bus. The PNP is proposing to, provide a subsidy to taxi operators and whatnot. Colin Bell is from Portland Eastern, it is. Essentially, he is the PNP's, the opposition deputy spokesperson on the cultural and creative industries. Is that correct, Colin?
Correct, yes.
And what is obvious, listeners, is that Colin Bell is a member and supporter of, and representative of the PNP. Marlon Morgan is a member, representative and supporter of the JLP. So you understand that this discussion is not necessarily for me to convince him one way or another, or for him to convince me one way or another. We can appreciate and accept that our respective views on this issue may diverge, but we may have convergence on some issues. For example, I think we converge, Colin, on the question of the need for a structured and appropriate mode of transporting our children in rural Jamaica in particular to and from school.
Allow me to say, Marlon.
Sure.
In 2002, Colin Bell was the lone voice out here in East Portland calling for a school bus. At that time, we were working on the Southern Coastal Highway, and the children of Happy Grove was getting home at midnight. And when they got home at that time, they couldn't go to school the next day. And I was very disappointed at the time when I was making the call that the government should send over in a JUTC bus or subsidize some coastals to take the children to school. I did not hear Mr. Vaz or Ms. Vaz, none of them spoke.
And this was 2022, you're saying?
When I brought Mark Bolden down here, and we went up to Happy Grove and met with the principal, and Nikhil Phillips was there too, and we started making some noise. The Minister of Education, that was Favor Williams at the time, she said she just heard about it from the MP of East Portland, and that they did subsidize some coasters to take the children to school. So I want to make it clear to all and sundry that Colin Bell supports a school bus system.
Good.
What Colin Bell does not support is a government buying used buses, one, and two, buying left-on-drive used buses, and three, the amount of money that was spent, $1.4 billion, And I did some further checks, Marlon. With the fact that the government don't pay import duty, wouldn't pay import duty on these buses, we could get 130 coaster buses. And let me also say that no other bus have stood up to the Jamaican condition as well as the Toyota coaster buses.
All right, so you have had an opening, as it were. Let me just come with my opening now, Colin. Now, I'm very mindful, Colin and listeners, of the deficits that we have had in this country. The fact that a number of our youngsters, particularly in rural Jamaica, would have lost their lives as a result of either reckless usage of the road and other hazards, accidents generally, and we have seen the loss of life as a result. Separate and apart from other things, other harmful and objectionable things to which our youngsters are subjected when they have to navigate the public passenger transportation system. I am not suggesting for a moment that our decent, hardworking, and respectable taxi operators do not have a role to play in terms of moving our people from point A to point B, because the truth of the matter is that school buses won't run on a Saturday and a Sunday. I don't know that they will be running in the holiday period or on public holidays. And so, just logically, Colin, you will have taxi operators moving our people, including students, from point A to point B from time to time. So I don't take any issue with that in terms of taxi and the role that taxi operators have to will play. What I think is important, however, is for us to be able to have more cooperative and responsible taxi operators being the ones on the road, and then the ones who are irresponsible are the ones that are essentially transitioned to other aspects of national life here in Jamaica. But I'm going to allow you to come back with a couple minutes, and then I come back with a response thereafter, Colin.
So
but that's just that's my opening observation so far.
Now, what I want to say to the listeners is that even if it was 100 brand new school buses, it would not be adequate to move all our children to school. And I want to say to Jamaica that both PNP, because what will happen, you will get the best of both worlds, because these buses are here, whether we like them or not. They are here, and therefore, whichever government is in place will have to use them unto their end. And what will happen with a PNP government, and remember, I don't speak on transportation for the PNP, I'm speaking as a citizen and as a member of the party. Now, when you have the subsidy, and how the subsidy will work, listeners, is that taximen will have to apply to be a part of it, because the children will be given a card, a smart card, that you swipe like a debit or a credit card. The taximen will have to sign up and get their machine. And when they sign up, that is when we're going to do that fit and proper check to ensure that these taximen who are going to be a part of this are good, upright citizens. Now, the cards will also be time sensitive, so you can only use them between the time that you are supposed to be traveling to school and the time you are traveling from school. So the same way you can track the children on the bus, you'll be able to track them on the taxi, and there will be a record of which taxi they travel on and at what time they travel. Now, what we are saying with this present bus system that the JLP is bringing in, I see a rip-off of the country. $1.4 billion, if you divide that by 110, it works out to 12.7, call it almost $12.8 million for one. If you calculate that to US, it is almost 80,000 US. Now, how dare you buy a whole 10-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old, 14-year-old bus for 80,000 US when you could get a brand new coaster for that money? Mark you, the coaster carried less. I understand that. However, the coaster will give you a longer run. And when you buy new vehicles, there is a 4 to 5 years service warranty by the dealer who is selling those vehicles. And you know, in Jamaica, one of our major problems is maintenance. We don't maintain nothing. And if we get buses that have these miles on them already, I cry for the maintenance that is going to happen. And the final thing before I come back to you, Marlon, is that these buses were taken out of commission for a reason. They were just taken out of commission.
What is that?
Either they got to the age or there are some mechanical issues and they took them out of commission.
All right, so I'm going to ask you to pause, Colin, because the truth is I am having this dialogue with you, this reasoning with you, so that the facts can be placed on the table. So you have touched on a good thing. The basis on which, well, you'll appreciate, Colin, that these buses are manufactured in the United States. One of the manufacturers is an entity called Thomas Built, and another is an entity called Bluebird. In fact, on Tuesday when I went to Thomas Built's website, it says, at Thomas Built buses, we only build buses we'd want our own children to ride. So in short, by virtue of the regime that exists in the United States, there's this continuous refresh cycle. So the buses that are changed out in the US, it is not that they are defunct, they have any mechanical defect or deficiency, or are obsolete. They are simply changed out because in the US, they keep a fleet that is basically new all the time. So they have a much more continuous and constant refreshing of their fleet, which is why, Colin, the buses in the United States ultimately make their way to another first world country called Canada. So Jamaica is not the only jurisdiction that has seen it fit to utilize these quote-unquote used buses, these quote-unquote refurbished buses out of the United States. Entities like countries like Panama, Guadeloupe, others here in Central America and across the Caribbean region, and indeed Canada, as I've mentioned earlier, utilize these buses. So on the question of the buses being old, it is not the case. These buses that are being brought in, Colin, are on average 10 years old. Some are as recent and as new as 8 years of age, yes, and then there are some that are 15 years of age, but we're not disputing that. What we're saying is that the average age of the buses are 10 years old, and the average, well, essentially the maintenance life left on the units are 80%. They have 80% of their maintenance life left, because when you consider the shelf life based on the manufacturer's indication, these buses can go up to 500,000 miles, and the average bus, the average bus as communicated by the minister at the press conference on Tuesday is 135,000 miles. So I'm going to allow you to come back in, and then I come back with some other observations that I'd like to make.
These buses, Marlon, are not used in Canada to carry school children. Let's make that clear.
Is market produced the carry?
And farm workers. They are not used in Canada to carry school children.
No, that's not my understanding.
No, the other point,
I'll allow you to say that.
The other point, government must operate within a structure with some rules and regulation. Now in Jamaica, we drive on the left-hand side of the road. And it is ideal that your steering wheel should be on the right-hand side.
Ideal, yeah.
Now, the government should not bring in a left-hand drive ambulance. The government should not buy a left-hand drive fire truck. The government should not buy a left-hand drive garbage truck. The government should not buy a left-hand drive school bus. We must operate within the rules and within certain parameters as a government. You can't operate like a private citizen. And that's why when I look at the fact that it is the government buying them and they are not gifts, because if they are gifts, then you would accept them and do the retrofitting. But if you have $1.4 billion, you must go out and get the best value for the Jamaican people money. It's not your money. And that is where I have a major problem with this spend. As I said in my first go, that I support a school bus system, but not these old bus. And tomorrow, on Saturday morning, Marlon, on Port and Spice TV, I will be talking to a man who's been driving these buses for about 23 years to tell us the operation. And what he said to me when I pre-interviewed him, he said to me that there is a parts issue for these buses.
I see.
Right? And I said, how so? He said that when the buses are broken down in America, they take like 3 or 4 weeks before they get them back. And they have to send them to the dealership. So I thought when I saw them that one of the good things that their maybe parts would be readily available. But after talking to people who operate these buses, I am learning also that the parts are not readily available.
Well, that's another gap that needs to be addressed in this discussion.
The other thing is the amount of money that would pay for the buses. I saw an invoice, I don't know if it's correct, with about 20 of the buses on it.
And you would appreciate that it is 26 or 25 of 110,
on the invoice.
right?
It's not the total invoice, but what I take from the invoice, I saw a bus for $20,000, and I'm using the most expensive one, $20,000, right?
Yeah.
Now, if the bus costs $20,000, and let's say there's a cost to get it from where in America you buy it to Florida, and to bring it to Jamaica, and I put that at $10,000, right? So $10,000 plus $20,000 to buy that bus and to bring that bus on the ground in Jamaica. That's $30,000. Remember I said to you before, on average, we're spending $80,000 US for one of these buses. Is somebody telling me that it's going to cost $50,000 more to retrofit that bus? I remember there was a bus on the invoice for $9,900. So I mean, I did not use the cheap one, I use the dearest one.
So all right, so one issue at a time, all right? So now, on at least 2 occasions this morning, I have had cause to indicate to my producer that what is happening is a case of persons, and I would situate Colin Bell among them, finding a problem for every solution. Now, ideally, Jamaica, our rural transportation space, would ideally benefit from right-hand drive vehicles. These buses were manufactured in the United States. They are left-hand drive vehicles. However, I wouldn't split hairs about that, because the truth of the matter is that I would prefer a left-hand drive school bus with all the safety features that these buses will have come September morning over a recalcitrant and irresponsible minibus driver like the one that was called Hothead, who had a crash and killed off some Homewood kids some years ago. So that's one of the points I'd like to make. I'd like to come back to another point now, because you mentioned parts. With these buses that are coming in, Colin Bell, there, I am advised, is a maintenance and service contract that is in place, and 1 year of spare parts that are in place. So that's when bushing need for sort out, when control arm need for sort out, yeah, when time strut, we call the thing engine mount and so on. All of these things are, these spare parts are in order and are accessible, because we know that from time to time you will need racking, you will need tire rod, and you will need control arm and whatever. And from a mechanical standpoint and integrity as well, my brother, I am advised that these units are fitted with the Cummins diesel engines and the Allison transmission system. I would have heard you calling on with Samuel Croskill last afternoon elsewhere in Raiderland, and the truth of the matter is that you cited features having to do with the buses that are in Portland at present, which is not a part of these 110 that are to come in. So whatever observations you made in relation to those buses, and that they are Chevy-made buses and whatnot, those are separate and apart from. VAS partnered with some private sector folks, my brother, and brought in those units, which are separate and apart from these 110 units that are set to be brought in and will be rolled out come September morning. Well, 100 of them, because 10 of them will be retained as a contingency, so that if something happens, God forbid, you can draw on one of the other buses to provide the support.
Marlon, we are critical thinkers. We're not looking problem for solution.
Yeah.
We are critical thinkers. And we are not going to sit down and watch a government con us out of our money. We are taxpayers. And we choose Jamaica.
Yeah.
And therefore, we reserve the right to have objective criticism to anything that we see that looks shady. Remember, Marlon, we are dealing with a government who pays $1 billion for a consultancy firm to tell them to increase their salary, and to date we have not seen that document. We are dealing with a government that is saying to us now $1.4 billion for 110 used buses. We want to see all the documents for these buses. We are saying to the people of Jamaica that the $1.4 billion could have been better spent. We are not against school bus. We are for school bus. And as I said earlier, in 2022, when Colin Bell was in Portland begging for school bus, Darrell Vaz never opened his mouth. Anne-Marie Vaz never opened their mouth. I was the sole voice calling for school bus. So I believe in a school bus system. But I'm saying to you, don't con us. Give us value for our money. That's what we are talking about. And I am betting you, Marlon Morgan, you and I can have a bet that these buses will not last. These buses will not last because they have done their shelf life in the United States.
So
and therefore, they are coming to Jamaica, wash up, done, and the inspectors in the United States have seen reason to take these buses out of commission. Some of these buses were operated by private entities in the United States, you know. And when they can't pass the test in the United States, they put them aside.
All right, good. So Colin will give those perspectives, and Marlon Morgan will deal in the facts. And so I'll use the couple minutes now to present the facts. These buses, by virtue of the purpose for which they had been serving, yes, school buses, they are subjected to the U.S. Department of Transportation's inspection regime and certification regime. As Minister Vaz said on Natalie Stack's program on YouTube last evening, which I played on this program earlier this morning, yes, all the buses that are coming in have that certification up to this year or for this year, 2025. So contrary to the observation you made just now, Colin, not Nagoso, in that the U.S. Department of Transportation, their certification of these buses based on their inspection, my brother, is in order and is in place for this calendar year 2025. So that's a matter of fact. In fact,
no, that's not a fact.
But hold on, just to be clear, we are two diametrically opposed things cannot simultaneously be true. You have asserted one thing a while ago, and in my response, I am presenting the facts and asserting another thing, which is the buses, and I'm just going to reiterate it. I'm just going to reiterate it. The bus them where coming, they are certified based on the advice and the information Minister Vaz has communicated to the Jamaican people for calendar year 2025, my brother. That is a matter of fact, and that can be corroborated and verified ultimately. But just to be very clear as well, you made mention of the cost, the price tag of 1.4 billion, and you went on to mention that the people of Jamaica will be benefiting from two bites of the cherry, in that they will benefit from these school buses were the PNP to form government, in addition to the plan that the PNP has, which Darrell Vaz has worked out to be not far off from the $1.4 billion. So just to be clear, to provide the subsidy to taxi operators, what them name, Pro Box and the AR wagon operators per Mark Golding, that price tag will not be far from 1.4 billion. The question to the PNP this morning, therefore, Colin Bell, is where that new money would come from if it is that 1.4 is being used for these buses and you're proposing to have another just about 1.4 billion again for this subsidy business. We are saying that is not a credible budgeting, that is not a credible outline of a plan. And just to close out in 20 seconds before we come back in, Colin, I heard you on your program last evening making mention of this same point about the government expending $1 billion for a consultant to tell them to increase their pay. You will appreciate, Colin, that one of the intractable issues in this country, one of the long-standing issues in this country, has been public sector reform and compensation review. What PricewaterhouseCoopers attended upon as the consultants in this matter, was it PwC? It may have been PwC. I don't know if it's sure if this is them or KPMG, but I think it's PwC it was. What the consultants attended upon was a comprehensive compensation review, and as you can appreciate, the political directorate is a subset of the public sector, and they ironed out anomalies and kinks in relation to the public service to get rid of the distortions in terms of allowances and the all kinds of inefficiencies in relation to how public sector workers were paid to have a more harmonized structure, which has ended up in pay bands at present, from pay band 1 to pay band 12 and whatever. So the work of the consultant was not only in relation to the political directorate, but the overall public sector system, which is why, my brother, we deal in the facts, and I am confident to be able to have a debate and a discussion with any operative, any surrogate of the PNP, because I am of the view that my brief is a superior brief to that of the PNP and any operative of theirs.
All right, so ring your own bell, Marlon. That's all right. That's what Labour does. But hear this. The country have not seen the findings of that report from the consultant. I would love to see it. They were paid $1 billion. The country deserves to see it. Talking about transparency.
Okay.
You mentioned that the buses are certified for 1 year. That's a lie. School buses in America are certified for 6 months. Anybody can go and find that and see that they are certified for 6 months. Every 6 months, these buses have to be rechecked. So that is not fact. The other thing, Marlon,
certified for 2025.
And 2025 is 1 year.
And that is based on information from the transfer minister. But continue, go ahead.
Don't take my time, right? 6 months they are certified for. Now the next thing, Marlon.
Yeah.
Our politicians in Jamaica get concession to buy a vehicle every year. Not every year, sorry. Every 2 years or 5 years. And what they do is nothing close to what these buses will do. Now why is it that the Jamaican children, or the rural children, because we don't buy used buses for JUTC. We must remember that. We buy brand new buses for JUTC. So it's a disrespect to rural people that don't care all Chogalang come do we to our school picnic. And I will say Chogalang. Let me finish, Marlon. I don't disturb you, so let me finish. It's a disrespect to the rural people that you all buy used bus car for us, while politicians get new car and can change them after 3 or 5 years, whichever one is the correct time, I don't remember. No, Marlon.
Yes, sir.
When we look at what the GLP is doing, for 9 years, you have been in power, and these taximen who you just ridicule and busmen who you call dangerous, they have
some of them are. Remember what I said carefully, you know.
Let me finish, Marlon. I don't disturb you. Let me keep the discussion good. It's been going really good.
Yeah, man.
These taximen who you have just disrespected, call them dangerous, and the names that other laborites have been calling them, have been taking our children to and from school for the last 9 years that the GLP has been in power. For election expedience now, you are ready to throw the taxi and bus operators under the old bus they want to just buy. It is a shameful and a disrespect and an ungrateful statement that you are all making. And worse,
Colin,
let me just finish. 20 seconds.
Sure, go ahead.
The 100 bus that you have now cannot carry 10% of the children that we have to move. So what if with all your disrespecting these bus operators, taxi operators, September morning, they said, all right, it's like we're wicked and we're dreadful, let's on a pound on one.
All right, so Colin, may I invite you to give me a few moments at 11:10 when we come back from the break? I know you're a busy man, but I'd like to prevail on you for a few more.
All right, so we're
not through it. I just have using the last 30 seconds. I just using the last 30 seconds to say this. At the very start of this discussion, I was the one who mentioned, the importance of taxi operators, but I made a distinction. Hold on, stop in. Do you agree with me, Colin Bell, that there are two types of taxi operators out there? Those who operate in acceptable and desirable ways, and those who, let me say this, and then those who operate in undesirable ways. Would you concur with me on that?
And the undesirable are the minimum. Far minimum.
Good. So that is what I'm talking about. Because you see, when I speak, Colin,
1% to grab
when I speak, Colin, I'm mindful of and I anticipate what my opponents will come with. I'm a different kind of labor, my general. A very, very serious man. We pick up at 11:10. We're coming back at 11:10. My, reasoning, as it were, with the PNP's, the opposition's deputy spokesperson on culture and the creative industries, Mr. Colin Shakafame Bell. Morning again. Welcome back, Colin.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm just going to finish up with an observation I was making, and then we get back to the alternating. So, Colin, I was making a point just before we went to the break that in my opening remarks in this exchange that we're having, I situated at the very outset the fact that we have Saturdays and Sundays, we have public holidays, and we may have holiday period like summer, Easter break, December break, and so on, yeah? And the truth is that there will always be a place for and a role for taxi drivers to play, because when the pitney them go church on a Saturday or a Sunday and I come home from church, a taxi them I go take, the school bus now go pick them up. And that is why I said what I said in my opening observation on this program, because I am not suggesting, and I don't think any sober commentator is suggesting, that taximan must stop keep and taximan are going to stop keep in this country. Because as you have quite rightly said, especially in this initial phase of the rollout of the school bus system in the country, you will still have a supplemental role for taxi operators to play, because the school buses simply will not have the capacity to carry all of the pitney them that exists and I go to school here in Jamaica using public modes of transportation. So I started there, my brother, and just to be very clear, in your remarks just before we went to the break, you did what I described as splitting hairs when you took to task the business of old buses and the age of the buses. Because I'm asking you, when you made the point about the politicians, for example, and other public sector workers and their duty concession, I am inclined to ask you, Colin, when you consider the man who operates a Honda Stream, a Toyota Wish, a Probox, or an AD wagon, yes? What age vehicle does that man operate? Does that man operate an old vehicle or a new vehicle?
He operates a whole vehicle.
So why would we in this conversation not the business of an old vehicle? Because the truth is, you have used the word old in the way Peter Bunting has used it, and I'm of the view, Colin, that is a way of trying to suggest that these reconditioned vehicles, these refurbished vehicles are obsolete and are defunct, and that is not the case, because for the vast majority of us, you and I discussed it elsewhere when we were having a conversation earlier this week, that for the vast majority of us, the first vehicle or the first few vehicles we own personally in a field we own life, whether it is a Toyota Corolla, a Kingfish, a Honda Civic, like in my case, was a reconditioned vehicle, a used vehicle coming out of Japan. And for many people, them first few vehicles have been used vehicles. They never have an opportunity to take plastic off a vehicle. It is my second vehicle that I've owned in my life that I was able to take plastic off of. But my first vehicle was a pupine, as they would say.
I am not going to speak when you are speaking, man.
Sure, go ahead. Your turn, man.
I like how we're having this discussion.
Yeah, right? Remember we're alternating. Yeah, man, go ahead.
No, let me make it clear. I have never owned a brand new vehicle. But listeners, what you will understand is that when a man have him one Probox or him one AD wagon, him take care of it better than the people who are maintaining the government vehicle. The point I am putting to the listeners is that a government, and we're not talking about private individual, a government should not be in the business of buying used vehicles. We know what happened with the purchase of used cars for police, or the attempt to purchase used cars for police. We know what happened with that. And government is government spending taxpayers' money. But because we have a government that does not believe in transparency, they do what they want and they don't operate within the laws and in the rules, and this government is not setting standards. Government must set standards. And that is my objection to this government buying used vehicles and are not transparent about it. But I certainly hope that the documents will come forward, because I want to remind this country that we are living in a digital age, and what we have is a lot of analog politicians, and we are going to find out the real cost of these buses. We are going to find out how much money was spent. Because Marlon, I want to ask you, wouldn't you agree with me, Marlon, that $1.4 billion could have get us 100 new buses?
I don't know if it could get us 100 new buses. I know
You
that
think it could get us
1.4
80?
billion, I don't know the quantity, but just to be clear, 1.4 billion dollars could have gotten us buses, for example, coaster buses, as you are contending. What I will say to you, though, is that there are certain features and certain specifications with these school buses, Colin, that make them superior to a coaster bus. And I'll tell you why. We have children in the country with disabilities. You know of a coaster bus that can have some apparatus descending and ascending to accommodate a wheelchair being loaded onto the bus? No, my
Let me
brother.
answer
You
that.
have to be
No. Let me answer that question.
Sure, go ahead.
The same way you are retrofitting these buses for different
Oh, you
things.
retrofit a coaster to put on a wheelchair and pick up a wheelchair?
And I bet you, Mara, that we can find coaster
Colin,
bus with
you are reaching, my brother. You are
No,
reaching.
I am saying to you that coaster buses are available right now with the accessibility for wheelchair ramp. Right now, you need not have to retrofit it.
I can give you some other features.
The reason why, Marlon, the reason why used buses were bought in this way without the proper procurement and without going through the proper inspection is because somebody is getting fat.
All right, good. So that's an assertion, but let me come with the facts now, Colin. Contrary to what you just ventured on the public record, I'm putting it to you that these buses have been acquired pursuant to proper procurement. You just used the word without proper procurement. That is not so, my brother. When I speak, I come to mash down the inaccuracies, my brother.
But no, just to be clear. We don't need words to mash it down.
Yeah, man, but let me go on to say this. Let me go on to say this, because that will come. That will come. Just to be clear, there's an entity that has been, that had to be engaged in relation to the acquisition of these buses. The buses that have been brought in, Colin Bell, are referred to as Thomas Built and Bluebird for the most part. So these are the two manufacturers out of the United States. These entities have what is called a dealer who has the license, as it were, and the exclusive authorization to deal in the purchase of these from the manufacturers, right? So just to be very, there's an entity that is basically the Caribbean dealer, the authorized dealer here in the Caribbean in relation to these buses, and that entity is called Now, the procurement methodology, Colin Bell, that was used to bring it is called the sole source methodology, because El Hydro, pursuant to its authorized license as a dealer, pursuant to its license rather as the authorized dealer, is the only entity that the government could engage to purchase these buses over there in the United States.
In your 2 minutes, just address why the word new was on the document to give permission to bring in the buses.
That must have been an inaccuracy. I have seen that letter as well, and I would imagine that ought to be corrected, because these are essentially buses that are being brought in. They are used buses and they are not used buses. I don't talk out of two sides of my mouth, Colin Bell. You should know better than that. So whoever just texted you and asked you to raise that with me, on that letter over the signature of Danville Walker, where the word new appears,
why you believe
that was not to be.
Why you believe somebody
no man,
I have had those documents from yesterday morning.
All of those documents. I am in the media business. Damien Crawford is the only one in Jamaica who operates that way, and I would want to be associated with Damien.
You are the only one who believes that
Damien is the only person who operates in that way, so I don't want to.
No, you, Marlon Morgan.
Well, that's why I withdraw that, my brother. I withdraw my reference to whoever texting you or whatever. So let's omit that. I am withdrawing that, and I've done so forthwith. So you can go on. You were making a point now before.
All right. So I want to say to the people of Jamaica, and even to GLP supporters, understand where Colin Bell stands and the People's National Party stands. We are not against a school bus system. We are against.
That's not what Bunting them said, and it's Bunting them wrong things.
Bunting is against the old bus. I am against the old bus. Mark Golden is against the old bus, and the buses are old, and that is the fact that nobody can dispute.
Colin,
There are 16-year-old buses.
We're not
There
just
are
discussing
15-year-old buses. There are 10-year-old buses.
But we just discussed all I knew, you know. We just discussed all I knew. Go ahead.
Let me finish. We are saying that the government, with an economy that you all say is booming, should not engage in buying old left-hand drive bus.
All right, well,
it
put
is
it this way.
on the coming. Let me finish.
Yeah, man,
it
go
is
ahead.
on the coming of a government. However, we understand that this government do not operate in the rule of law. And like you always like to tell me, Marlon, that we are a country of laws.
We're a nation of
this
laws and institutions.
We are a nation of laws.
Yeah.
But this government has been unable to operate within the confines of the Constitution of Jamaica.
Let me show you
the road that we drive on. Hold on, let me just finish a couple of things.
Sure, go ahead.
The road that we drive on is not incomparable to the roads in the US. It's not comparable, to the roads in the United States. These buses, when you see them in the United States, you would never see a child standing in them. So when we bring in a bus with a 40-seat capacity, I am saying to all and sundry without any fear of contradiction that we are going to carry 80 people in these buses. I am also saying to you that the bus have a span behind the back wheel that is longer than normal. That will be a challenge to driving that bus on the Jamaican road, especially when you are doing an incline.
I'm going to ask you to pause, Colin.
80 people going up an incline with that long overhang on the back wheel, it is going to give issues to steer, and it gives a long swing.
All right, I'm gonna ask you this, Colin, because I'm actually laughing at this juncture, because it goes back to where I started. The PNP has invested itself in identifying and finding a problem for every solution where this school bus system, rural school bus system is concerned.
Are not.
So watch me now, Colin.
Now watch you. Yeah, listen.
What you're saying, because the argument of terrain has been raised. My brother, I'm putting it to you that there are winding roads in countries all around the world. Winding roads are not synonymous, or are not exclusive rather, to Jamaica. There are hills and valleys in the United States in as much as there are hills and valleys here in Jamaica. I will readily acknowledge that the United States generally has a better network of roads than do we here in Jamaica, yes? But the point I'm making, my brother,
let me help you, because you're missing a context. It's not just the road. I said to you, you will not see these buses in America with anybody standing in them. So if you have a 40-seater, it's not going to carry more than 40 in America. And most of the time it don't carry 20. What I'm saying to you, in Jamaica, we are going to put 80 and 90
and what I'm putting to you, with that? And what I'm putting to you in response, Colin, is that you have gone to great lengths to conceive of everything that may go wrong.
We are critical thinkers.
Well, it's not critical thinking, man. Daryl Vaz has a two-letter word for it, man. A two-word descriptor. Correction. It is a two-word.
So is he.
Colin,
the Bible tells
it is a two-word descriptor that Daryl Vaz has for that.
And so
and you just said something very important, because as I drove to studio here today, and I was listening to this exchange that Daryl Vaz had this morning in my vehicle with Natalie Stack, I said to myself, why is the PNP so fixated on this corruption business? And you have just said it a while ago.
Because
as a man thinketh, so is he. Because the PNP knows. You know why your former General Secretary, Paul Burke, made mention of agent fees? Because he contended that with contracts with the Chinese, a fee would come back to the person who commissioned or got the contractor. Paul Burke asked about agent fees. But that's why I'm informing you. I suspect that I am seized of some things that you may not be seized of. So I am informing you, my brother, that Paul Burke made the point about agent fees. Go and ask Paul Burke what are agent fees, because as you're saying a while ago, as a man thinketh, so is he. With every procurement, with every matter, the PNP thinks corruption. Why? Because that is their baby.
All right, let me say this to you.
Sure.
I am in the entertainment business, so I know about agent fee. When I book an artist, I get 15%. That's agent fee for me.
Yeah.
No, corruption in Jamaica is not a thought. It is not an opinion. It's a fact. Corruption is rampant in this country, and it is costing us $120 billion annually. You asked me earlier where we're going to get more money from to spend. When we clean up the corruption, that $120 billion will now become a part of the consolidated fund that we are losing to corruption. Corruption is a fact in this country, so much so.
Right, so much so that a political party stole from its own self.
We have a prime minister whose statutory filing
but that has nothing to do with corruption. That has nothing to do with corruption.
Is what?
In fact, the corruption that may be afoot is corruption on the part of agents at the IC. What we want to know, let Kevin Stevenson tell us. But Colin, let Kevin Stevenson. I'm going to allow you to speak and then I speak. Go ahead, complete the thought.
Right. So this government put an agency in place in 2017 called the Integrity Commission. They choose the people, some of them in consultation with the leader of the opposition, and all those persons, all the other persons were employed under this GLP administration. When they find dirt on the Prime Minister, you now want to throw them all out, plus you also want to throw out the law that says illicit enrichment.
I'm putting it to you, Colin, that if Kevin Stevenson had found what you are asserting to be dirt on the Prime Minister, he would have referred the Prime Minister to the director, the then director of corruption prosecution, for a determination to be made by her. Yeah, he did not. He elected not to do so in this case for reasons best known to him. And what we would like to hear as members of the public, well-thinking members of the public, are the circumstances under which Tamika Fiddler-Blake, a senior investigator at the IC, who it is alleged had issues with how the investigation into Holness's statutory declarations were being conducted, she demitted office. We would like to hear the reasons under which she demitted office. Can Stevenson must come out and tell us that, because don't think for it, my brother. That's why I said to you, we're a nation of laws and institutions, not of men. The Kevin Stevensons of this world come and go.
Allow me to respond to Ms. Tamika.
Fiddler-Blake, yeah, tell us about Fiddler-Blake.
Remember, in the investigation about Wisconsin, she said she found on the first and the second count, she found enough evidence to charge the Prime Minister. She said that.
Tamika Fiddler-Blake said no such thing, my brother. Tamika Fiddler-Blake was a senior investigator.
Listen, she said, no, the director of corruption.
So you're referring now to Mrs. Keisha Prince Kamika.
Right, sorry, Prince Kamika.
I will guide them, don't worry yourself. The things that you don't know, I will inform you.
On Wisconsin, she said she found enough evidence to charge the Prime Minister on the first and second count. However, she will not charge him because of the passage of time.
I see.
Even though there were no statute of limitation on those issues.
I see. All right, let us come back to the substantive point here now. Let's come back to the substantive point here now. You see, in relation to the purchase of these buses, my brother, where the PNP is now busy trying to paint a boogeyman that there is this 1.4 billion that the taxpayers of Jamaica are not deriving value for money from. Let us just be very clear. There's an entity, listeners, that served as the dealers for these bus manufacturers, the entities that own the buses. And what happened is that the government secured, using the sole source procurement methodology, the Public Procurement Commission's approval to engage this entity for the purchase and acquisition of these 110 buses. Colin Bell has concluded in his mind that we have not derived value for money, as have many other PNP surrogates, supporters, bloggers and bloggers. And what I'm saying, just let me complete the thought. What I'm asserting is that, as the Minister of Transport has indicated, right, in this 1.4 billion, you are having to pay for the buses, you are paying for the buses, you are paying the freight to move the buses from wherever they are in the US to load them onto the vessel to be shipped to Jamaica. You're paying the shipping costs, and you're paying the costs of the requisite retrofitting that has to ensue. And remember now, the quote-unquote dealer for the manufacturers of the buses will have to make a profit, because when Colin Bell goes out and engages contractors, and Colin Bell keeps a cookout or whatever other event, Colin Bell does so with a view to turn a profit. So the people who serve as the dealers, my brother, they do so with a view to turn a profit, and I trust that you may appreciate that.
I do appreciate that anybody in business is in there to make a profit. However, I am saying that as a government, and you find $1.4 billion, I am saying to the people of Jamaica, take off your orange, take off your green. 110 whole use out American schools.
Them have 80% of the mechanical life.
Let me finish, Marlon. 110 whole American bus. And when you take off the fact that the government wouldn't pay duty, we could get 130 coaster buses in Jamaica.
Coaster and a capacity, my brother. The 72 buses, the 72 seaters have bigger capacity. That's why we went for some of those.
Let me finish.
Sure.
Yes, they
you have 20 seconds, Colin. I'll up on 11:30. 20
but
seconds.
I will say to you that the lifespan of the coaster is 70 times the lifespan of these old buses.
I'm saying to you that is not so.
Serve Jamaica well. They are the best buses that has ever come to Jamaica.
All right.
The longest serving buses that have ever come to Jamaica. Take out the 250,000, the N-Carver, the Tata, all of them are to stop come. The coaster buses are fit for purpose, and it will be a better spend. Jamaicans, open your eyes. 110 old done bus to 130 brand new coaster.
All right, all the best, man. Respect. Thanks for your time.
Money again, Marlon.
Yeah, man. All right, cool. Thank you. You can respond to that, caller. We're up on the break. We're going to take the break and come back. Observation that Peter Bunting and Mark Golding continues to stand by and double down on that the buses are old. But in the words of the Energy Minister and the Transport Minister, Daryl Vaz, the PNP and Jamaica as a whole are going to get bus after bus after bus. And as he said at his press conference on Tuesday, quite frankly, over the next 2 years, there's an intention to bring in between 200 to 300 more buses. And ultimately, the intention is to have some of these buses being brought in, if not all, being new buses. Because remember now, Rome was not built in a day, and the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And so the truth of the matter is that if you are going to build out a fit-for-purpose transportation system, and you start with refurbished buses, just like most of our professionals here in Jamaica, most of our people who own and operate motor vehicles will recall, the first car that you may have started out with may have been a second-hand car or a reconditioned vehicle that you would have bought that came in from Japan. But now you have stepped up in life, you're in a better position, and you're now the owner and operator of a brand new vehicle. But alas, perhaps the PNP don't understand these concepts. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Bongo.
Yes, Mara. Disappointed with that interview because,
No, we didn't have an interview. We had a reasoning. It wasn't an interview.
Yeah, all right.
So if you're disappointed in that reasoning, fine, go ahead.
The person who we spoke with. Now, there's a thing you say, a rhetoric called proof surrogate. I'm sure you're aware of it. Proof surrogate really to create an illusion of evidence without providing evidence. Mr. Bell kept saying this and saying that one, because it's 1.4 and he want to get evidence, he want proof. So what I noticed the PNP, they use this fallacious argument, proof surrogate, They speak and present argument without any evidence. One of the common feature, he said that a friend called him and told him that parts are hard to get. Now tell me something. I live in America, and I've always admired the bus system that they have. So the nonsense he spoke about left hand right. Whenever you are behind a school bus in the zone, and the school bus stop, you have to take all that flicks out. No vehicle can pass either way. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's a stop, and there are features that prevent that, because in America they are very careful about the children. In fact, school zone you have to follow. When a light flash, you have to follow. You have to go to 15 miles an hour. So this nonsense about being left hand. When I was in Jamaica, I love left hand drive vehicle because they are safer. Okay? And I've never seen these buses with the tailpipe. It's clean. Right? Now, Mr. Vaz said, which he has reiterated, that the engine on these buses.
Hold a moment, Bongo, before I come back to the engine. Hold a moment before I come back to the engine. Listeners to the program, there are two numbers to the program. 212-9824, and there's also 462-0919. Instead of incessantly seeking to call and get through on one number only, avail yourself of the alternative number or the alternate number. 212-9824. That is one number. The other number, in other words, the other number is 462-0919. That is the other number. Continue your observation, sir.
Okay. Yes, the alternative number. Right, so this is what Mr. Vaz said. This is the minister who has the evidence, who has the information. Not Mr. Bell, who's, as usual, relying on foolproof surrogate. He said that the lifespan of the engine is 500,000, and the average mileage on these buses is between 130 and 160. If it is 160, then it will be 340. Yeah, 340,000 miles more.
And remember, these buses are not like a JUTC bus, Bongo. They are going to be used in the morning and in the afternoon stroke evening, because them are going to show out to carry the people them go to school and show out to return the kids from school. So it's not like them are run for the entire day in the way how a regular PPV vehicle would operate.
Not only that, Mr. Morgan, the children are not heavier than adults, and sure they're not going to overcrowd the bus as the public transportation is. No,
well, Colin Bell is using clairvoyance. He knows what number will play at 1 o'clock in Cashpot, because he knows that the buses will be overloading.
He's intoxicated by because guess what, Mr. Morgan, will there be a warden on the bus? Hello?
That is correct, sir. There will be a school warden on the bus.
You know, so I wonder who is the warden on the coaster. You know, I was on Jamaica. Let me tell you something, I experience. My car was down for a while in Jamaica about 5 years ago, sir. And I was on a coaster bus. And I said to the driver, sir, stop that music. And everybody trying to look at us with it. Where's that deal come from? It was nastiness. But as if I was a different, I had to stop and listen. All right, I'm coming up. I don't think children should be subjected to this kind of thing on the bus.
And that's the other point. That's the other point, Bongo. Because as I was pointing out to Colin a while ago, there are two kinds of public passenger vehicle operators in the country. Those who operate in the desirable way and those who operate in the undesirable way. When you have a bus driver or a taxi driver I look little pitney and I have sexual relations with little pitney and have little girls sitting on the laps of men or boys, school boys and whatnot, and when you have people overloading them taxi, whether it is a Pro Box or a AR wagon, yes, whenever you have those things happening, those are undesirable developments. And what we want in the transportation system, particularly where the transport of our children are concerned, are the desired conduct, because the trap that the PNP is trying to set us in and to try and create, and try as he might, he can't do that with me. The trap they were trying to create is that the JLP is proposing to do away with taxi men. Like seriously, school bus now go run past Saturday and Sunday. School bus now run at 11 o'clock. So what if a child is ill and is at home and is to go from point A to point B to doctor or wherever at 11 a.m.? Is a school bus them going to take on a Tuesday to do that? There will always be a role for public passenger vehicles and other types of other modes of transportation separate and apart from school buses. Nobody's making the point that the school buses will be the be all and end all.
Alright, so the question I want to ask you, I'm not aware. The Todd, there's a group, tax group in Todd. You know of that group?
That's correct, sir. And the gentleman ought to have known of what you were speaking on Monday or Tuesday, but he was seeking to be a buffoon. There are two taxi organizations in the country primarily, separate and apart from the respective associations. There is TODS and there is JATU. TODS is this entity that the gentleman Edgerton Newman presides over. JATU was an entity with which Edgerton Newman was associated prior, but he got vexed because the leadership had changed or whatever the situation was. So a gentleman by the name of Louis Barton, I think it is. Louis Barton. That's the name you were struggling for when you were speaking with this guy, Conor O'Brien. So it's Louis Barton of this entity called JATU, because the entity that Edgerton Newman is affiliated with is TODS. It means Transport Operators for Development Sustainable Services.
Yes. So have they embraced the bus for as a government? Have they embraced?
I don't know. It would be good to hear from them, because in the press conference on Tuesday we heard from Daryl Vaz that to date no taxi association has come out and has frowned on this impending school bus system rollout for September morning. None of them.
I heard a nationwide, I'm never wrong. All agree except Todd. Now, guess what? What Mark Gold and Butty were doing, they were trying to appeal to, because I'm informed, sir, that when the election announced, the group gonna try to lock down the transportation of the country and cause chaos. I'm telling you, I've heard that. So the GLP, the government must be mindful of an attempt after the election is announced that transportation sector they're gonna try to lock it down. Yes.
On what basis? I hear you, Bongo. I hear you, and I will take that at the appropriate forum. Yeah. But what would be the end game there? They're locking it down on account of what? Because school buses are coming from foreign, aka old buses, according to Colin Bell and Peter Bunting.
Mr. Morgan,
yes, sir.
Young. Listen, the public sector, can be manipulated by the TNT industrial sector. They are planning on disruption. You're going to hear a lot of bleeding heart circumstances in medical facilities. You're going to hear that. You don't understand. Well, maybe I will see you understand. But the PNP, listen, Bobby Peterson said, anything is necessary. They believe that they should rule on anything. They even had that. By accident, the orange fire.
I'm just going to give the quote and close out, because I'm going to another call. Bobby Pickersgill. Bobby Pickersgill asserted some time ago that they believe it is best for the PNP to form government, and therefore anything that would cause or lead to that end is best for the PNP and best for Jamaica.
That excludes nothing.
So that takes nothing off the table, basically. So go ahead with your closing thoughts.
Before I go, I am ashamed of Marie as a mother. She is on the PNP side.
You're referring to Marie Wilson out of St. Andrew Southern.
Yes, Marie from God. I remember when Mark Golden just won, when just became a member of parliament, a girl was raped and her body burned in Arnett Garden. I never heard a word from Mark Golden. I don't know if you remember.
I remember, man. The girl went to Kingston Technical. She was a student of KT.
I smell her body. And Marie herself was hurt. Mark Golden said nothing to condemn what those brutal men did in its country. He said nothing. So when I heard that Warden will be on the buses, yes, the dignity, and Marie, because of politics, said that I was banned off radio station and agree with the taxes under the girls and the boys. Marie, you should have damn shame yourself, Marie. That's not like you. Support the government attempt to have our children go to school in dignity. We're not trying to...
Alright, I have to leave it there. I have to leave it there, Bongo. Yeah, man, noted. I have to leave it there. Yeah.
Take care.
We're gonna go to another call. Just to be clear, listeners, let me see the time here. We have 13 minutes going up to midday. There are two numbers, 212-9824, and there's also 462-0919. If you call one number and I get you, call the other number. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Straight Up.
Morning, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Morning. I hear Colin Bell talking about the school bus them
yes,
a while
ma'am.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you were telling him about the buses that are gone by run in Canada, and he said nothing like that.
He said farm workers the buses carry.
No, go so.
So they don't
call
care.
my mom. My mom,
Mm-hmm.
all of my family, they live in Canada. And I asked my mom if it's the same bus that America use. My nephew driving every day to go to school, and she said yes. So
you see, the PNP, they try to make it up as they go along, you know. But for them, look a thing dead on my arrival. Them look a thing the way them I try come with. Because in my conversation, caller with Colin Bell, in my opening observation with him, in my opening remarks, I made the point to him that taxi operators will have a place to play in the transportation of our people from one point to another. Because if you think about it logically, just the sheer number of buses that are coming in this initial phase is not sufficient to take all the students to school. So taxi man have to keep. It's logical.
of course, and you have good taxis.
When people go Sabbath school and Sunday school, how them are going to reach back at them yard?
Exactly, but you have good taxi drivers. You have good taxi people on the road. But the robot taxi is a problem. I saw a taxi with some school children, about 20 of them in a heap.
Yeah, you know how it is. And then pack up some of the trunk, because as you know, the station we're going to have that trunk capacity, and then pack up all 8 of them round at the back. That's so very dangerous.
And listen, if when them taxi they crash, you know, the them peers have no to get in the car, they're not insured to carry so much money, you know. You know, and then they talk about bus this and bus that. It's the money that I worry over. All train people is worry over money.
Alright, Carla, think about it logically. Them say these buses will come from foreign Ozine. Mark Golden talk about Probox and him talk about the air wagon, which we know is AD wagon.
Him call it one different name.
Him say air wagon when they are in fact AD wagons. But follow me, sister. Follow me. The vehicle, the coaster we are running a car picnic right now, them all are them new.
One of them all, you know, see some of them are lean one side.
The bus them all camber, exactly.
Still take them.
The bus them all camber for the most part.
Exactly. And
so when the word all come about now all of a sudden.
But the bus them look better than plenty of them were chat. All the one who you just come off of, the bus them look better than him.
I know for sure that the buses look better than Peter Bunting, that's for sure.
And Bob Golden too.
That is for sure.
You understand me? And me say the next thing, the PNP them buy some bus. Me hear my name about how much bus PNP buy. Did them buy them with no parts? You remember the last set about the PNP buy? Not even parts did there for the bus them. Not even parts did there for the bus them.
Precisely.
You understand them talk about the money? At least JLP can show the bus them. See all of the tax them when they collect over the years. When we see, we don't see nothing for them.
Because if we're on a march to build out this thing, what is wrong with starting with some used buses and ultimately get to a point where we're going to have the buses that we need and all of them being new buses and so on? What is wrong with starting the journey of 1,000 miles with the first step? What they're trying to do is to pour cold water on and disparage the first step.
You know how much little school girls come home with belly and a taxi man free them?
All that.
And a taxi man free them. What is wrong with these people? Everything this government do is a problem to them. like if them not getting a power, them not gonna drop the handle. If them getting a power, them not gonna drop the handle. It's like them one year around Jamaica. Every 18 years when time everything did alright.
Carla, I was listening to radio a couple of days ago, Zine. I know what came to my mind because Manchester Muda them deal with something water in Falmouth in Trelawney last week. That system, the Western Water Resilience System, is to serve Trelawney, St. James, and go as far as Hanover, possibly Westmoreland. And I said to myself, Michael Phillips was on media. He was speaking at a PNP meeting, and basically he was threatening. Yeah, Wani was speaking at a PNP conference, and he was making the point that the water that the government is proposing to bring from Pepper to serve Mandeville, then better not make it pass a particular community, a particular community in Northwest Manchester. And I looked into it the other day, and I said to myself, if there are so many communities that are underserved in terms of water, what were these guys doing for 18 and a half years? Think about the communities that are bawling for water. From Mandeville, places in Northwest Manchester, places in Hanover, Westmoreland, you name it, places in Trelawney, right around the country. What was Bobby Pickersgill, for example, doing for 18 and a half years and about him a chairman for life? Should have been a chairman of the life.
Westmoreland go see how Westmoreland look. How Westmoreland look. And that was PNP city for over 40 odd years. PNP has done nothing to Westmoreland. Nothing to Westmoreland.
If you go up and down the country and know the deficits in infrastructure, you really have to wonder, what were these guys doing?
And I'm going to talk about JLP in a power for 9 years. Of course, JLP in a power for 9 years, but 3 years was COVID. I want to continue not to remind them that 3 years out of the 9 years was COVID. Who could have done nothing in a COVID? What could the government do in a COVID when country everywhere locked down?
No, you have a point, exactly.
You understand me? So if Andrew did get that 3 years, can you imagine how far Jamaica reached?
That's right. Because there was displacement.
Everything them have a problem with. Them have a problem and they don't have no solution. A box problem comes.
Alright, but so Carla, let me reason with you on this one, Zine. Just think about it carefully. The school buses are contemplated to correct an existing problem. If it is, based on what the PNP is proposing to do, take up money and give it to taximan, how will that solve the foremost challenge that we have in the country? Isn't that a clear perpetuation of the problem that we have?
Madam, let me tell you something. Me come from the popping taxis them. Me in a taxi and hear taxi driver say now carry the pitney them because they think. You know, you're there at school and you're sweat up.
The ramping up and thing, and we know how that goes. Yes, yes.
They put the other one, so you know they will smell green.
Yes.
Some of the taxi them say them now carry them.
And then we know the money part go to. Because enough of the taxi man them blatantly say no schoolers. Because if the adults them pay 10, the pitney them a pay 4. And 10 more than 4.
Them want, some of them will, you know, because we have some decent taxis just want make a living. But you have some, my God, if you hear the kind of music, the disrespect and disrespect way in the bus, you understand me? And moreover, 95% of the taxis don't want to carry children. So what is PNP problem? They don't give taxi driver money to carry picnic.
And there will be no accountability. There will be no accountability. All that will happen is that them pick out one few PNP households and go give the taximan the money to carry the picnic them from those households on a partisanship basis. That's what they are proposing to do. With these buses, whether the parent or JLP or PNP, them picnic are going to have a place on these buses will come. And as Daryl Val said, Auntie, Daryl Val said it on a program last night. That them going to get bus after bus after bus after bus. Them going to get bus until then Clyde a bus.
Let me tell you something, man. PNP have no solution. All them have is just with chat this and chat that. They go like them educated more than anybody else. You see when me hear them talk about it, me and Mark Bowling talk about him go whatever with swamp to put people
Dump out of all of the land in Jamaica. A swamp you plan to dump up to build house.
And the people are so full, them are blow this shit like them are idiot.
Miss, Mark Golding was out in St. Thomas Eastern, the very place where the people are going to benefit from the transport center, the town center, and Mark Golding called the town center a so-called town center, and the people them out there blow vuvuzela while the man disrespect them own a town center where them are going to benefit from. Anyway, we're out of time, auntie. Out of time. Thanks for your call.
All right, Marlon.
And don't be a stranger. Call back next week.
Don't stay so long with Never Bell. May I beg you?
Calling bell.
Yeah.
All right. Respect. That's our word. We have come to the end of the broadcast this morning. Let me thank all our guests, all our callers, our listeners, and of course our producer and broadcast technician, Tanya Richards. We do it tomorrow with Jermaine Barrett here on New Start 93 FM, and then on Monday with Canada Brand. So stay tuned. And